In this video, I wanted to talk about how I find using constraints can be a really helpful starting point for creating art. So one of the beautiful things about art making is that there's kind of infinite possibility. We can make anything with anything. And sometimes that amount of choice and possibility can feel a little bit overwhelming. And sometimes when there's too much choice, it's kind of easier to do nothing. So I use constraints when I'm just feeling like there's loads of things I could do and I want to kind of narrow the starting point. I want to give myself a bounding box or a kind of much narrower place to start that I can then kind of develop and grow from. So constraints are really helpful when I'm just feeling like there's just so many different things I could do and so many different possibilities. And I think using constraints can also help at the other end of the spectrum when you're just feeling like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do. I don't know, I've got no ideas. So if you're feeling kind of overwhelmed and underwhelmed, having some kind of ready-made constraints to just start you off can be really helpful. So what do I mean by constraints? Basically some limitations or some restrictions that you then kind of have to work within. So a constraint could be a time constraint. So it could be, I'm just going to create art for 5 minutes, for 2 minutes. And then you're kind of lowering the stakes, but you're getting started. A constraint that I like to do is just to maybe, I don't know, open a book or a magazine at any page and just say, right, I'm going to create something based on that page, whatever it might be. Or it might be that I open my fridge and say I'm going to create something in response to something in my fridge. And so yesterday I wanted to create some art based on a constraint, and the constraint that I used was just going into my kitchen and finding two things within my kitchen that were vaguely interesting to me, that had some sort of structure or shape or something about them that interested me. So I picked a lemon squeezer. I kind of liked these shapes here and the sort of the circularness of it. I'm into circles at the moment. And a pineapple. So my constraint that I used was literally just walking into my kitchen and finding something as a starting point. And now I'm just going to show you what I made and talk you through how I made it. So this is my response to the pineapple and lemon squeezer. You'll see that I've made a sort of one-page sketchbook. So I use these a lot. I really enjoy just having a little sketchbook out of one page, and there's a video on my blog if you're interested in how to use that. So it's just a A3 piece of paper with a cut in the middle. And I started by putting some quite random green sort of watercolour scribbles across the page. I like to stick little kind of morsels and fragments and little pieces of my previous artwork onto pages and then start. So here is a little bit of masking tape with some watercolour and some gold paint. And I just started. So I think I started with this one here, which was just looking at the shapes of the leaves of the pineapple. And then this was a pencil drawing where I was not really looking that closely at the page, but then I went over and came back to it and added some sort of gold paint. Can you see that? Some gold paint and some red detail. And then here I was just really enjoying the shapes and the patterns of the pineapple. And here is the sort of lemon squeezer. Now, I mean, it's not a religious copy of the lemon squeezer, but what I'm thinking about is what were the things that were interested to me, and it was those sorts of lines. And so this is, you can see those lines here. And then again, I've done a sort of across the pages, or across the little kind of 8 folds. And I think this is what's quite enjoyable about these one-page sketchbooks, is that you can work on a sort of one of these 8 sides here, or you can work right across. So if you look here, I don't know if you'll be able to make it out because I've sort of gone over it in lots of different materials, but there is a sort of larger pineapple here going across all those pages there. Now, obviously, you won't necessarily choose a pineapple and a lemon squeezer, or have the same artistic sensibilities as me, or use the same materials, or have the same mark making approach. But I just wanted to show you and talk to you about how powerful constraints can be, and that actually giving yourself a kind of a smaller starting point can mean that you're more likely to start. And I find that once you've started, then you kind of respond to the page and you respond to what you've made, and it's a lot easier to keep going. So constraints can be a kind of weirdly liberating and sort of freeing way to start creating art.